There's a wheel inside your car that spins at up to 200,000 revolutions a minute, sitting in exhaust gas hot enough to glow orange. And it does it for 100,000 miles without ever touching metal. That's a turbo. And the question I want to answer today is simple. How does something spinning that fast, that hot, not just tear itself apart? Stick with me, because the trick that keeps it alive is genuinely one of the cleverest things bolted to your engine. That flaw is lag. The turbine only spins when there's enough exhaust flow, so when you floor it from low revs, there's a beat of nothing while it spools up. That hesitation, then the shove. Engineers have chased it for decades. Lighter wheels, twin scroll housings that keep exhaust pulses crisp, sequential setups with a small fast turbo plus a big one, and now, variable geometry vanes that reshape the gas flow at low RPM. Newest of all, electric turbos spin the shaft with a motor for instant boost. So that's the whole story. Waste heat, a shaft floating on oil at 200,000 RPM, cooled, refereed and tamed. Free power, reclaimed from the exhaust. Left alone, the turbo keeps spinning faster and boost keeps climbing until something breaks. So there's a pressure referee, the wastegate. It's a valve that, once boost hits the target, opens a bypass so some exhaust gas skips the turbine entirely, dumping the excess energy. A spring and diaphragm actuator senses boost and cracks it open, or on modern cars the ECU controls it electronically for precise regulation. Blow-off valves do a related job on the intake side, venting pressure when you lift off so the compressor doesn't stall. It's all about holding boost exactly where it's safe, but there's still one flaw drivers complain about most, and it's baked into the physics. Here's a catch nobody expects. When you compress air, you heat it up, squeeze it to 20 psi, and it can leave the compressor at 150 degrees Celsius. Hot air is thin air, fewer oxygen molecules per litre, which quietly undoes some of what you just gained, and worse, it invites engine-killing knock. So between the turbo and the engine sits an intercooler, basically a radiator for your intake air. The compressed charge flows through it, dumps its heat to the passing breeze, and arrives dense its heat to the passing breeze, and arrives dense and cool. Denser air, more oxygen, more power, safer combustion. Now, what stops all this from spiraling into too much boost and blowing the engine apart? When you drive hard, then shut the engine off instantly, the oil pump stops. But the turbine housing is still glowing at several hundred degrees. Whatever oil is left sitting in that bearing gets baked solid into a black, crumbly deposit. That's coking, and those hard little particles wreck the bearing surfaces and block oil galleries. It's the classic way people kill a turbo. That's exactly why performance cars had turbo timers and why modern ones run an electric pump or water cooling after shutdown. Managing heat is half of turbo engineering, which brings us to the next problem. Because more boost also means more heat squeezed straight into your engine. This is the part that genuinely amazed me. At 200,000 RPM, no normal ball bearing survives. It'd overheat and disintegrate, so the shaft doesn't actually touch anything solid. It rides on a thin wedge of pressurized engine oil, a film maybe a few thousandths of a millimeter thick, fed straight from your oil pump. The spinning shaft drags oil under itself and literally floats, metal never contacting metal. That same oil also carries the heat away. It's called a floating bearing, and it's why turbo life and clean oil are so tightly linked. But that oil is also why you're told never to switch a hot engine straight off, and here's why that matters. On the other end of that shaft, sealed away from the heat, sits a second wheel, the compressor. Spin them together, and the compressor grabs fresh air, flings it outward with its blades, and rams it into the engine under pressure. That's boost, so the layout is beautifully simple. Hot side spins, cold side pumps, one shaft joins them. When the turbine hits 200,000 RPM, so does the compressor, and now you're stuffing maybe 20 psi of extra air into cylinders that used to sip at atmospheric psi of extra air, into cylinders that used to sip at atmospheric. Same engine, dramatically more oxygen, dramatically more power. But that shaft, spinning that fast, what on earth is holding it up? When fuel burns, you only convert about a third of its energy into turning the crankshaft. Another huge slice, roughly a third, leaves as hot, fast-moving exhaust gas, normally pure waste. A turbo's whole genius is stealing some of that back. You put a little fan, the turbine wheel, right in the exhaust stream. The gas blasts through it and spins it up, just like wind on a windmill, except this wind is nearly 950 degrees Celsius and moving fast. Free energy, harvested. Now you've got a spinning shaft doing nothing useful yet, so what do you bolt on the other end of it? Here's the thing, every engine is really fighting. It's an air pump. To burn more fuel and make more power, you need more oxygen in the cylinder. Full stop. A normal engine just sucks air in as the piston drops, so it's limited to whatever atmospheric pressure will push through the intake, about 14.7 psi at sea level. That's it. So the obvious idea is, why not force more air in than the atmosphere can push on its own? Cram it in under pressure. But where do you get free energy to do the cramming? That's the question, and your engine is already throwing the answer straight out the exhaust pipe.